Okay, we're going over the terminal today and GitHub. So I think most of us have a good understanding of GitHub already. So let's just go over the basics here. So if we go to our Learn platform and we go to Terminal Basics and go to Introduction, that's where I'll be covering the material here. So who can tell me what without looking it up, if you can, what a GUI stands for, a GUI?
Graphical user interface.
That's right. Yep. So what we're looking at right now, my screen is a form of a GUI. So I have this cool website that I found once that has all these different types of GUIs that you see on movies, on TV shows, and sometimes here, like science fiction can be an inspiration for what we do, what we try to create here in reality. You can explore this on your own time, but this is the point of this website, to show different GUIs. So the GUI that we have here wasn't always the way that we would interact with a computer. The way I can make folders here, the way I can click on a folder name, open it, and then I have Visual Studio Code as a form of a GUI that I see on my left here in my Explorer, where I can create files and folders and then open those files and folders. This is another form of a GUI. So we have GUIs within GUIs here, but before we had that, we had this thing, a terminal. And this terminal would be the way that we can navigate through the computer. And so we are going to go over some terminal commands, because sometimes on the job, the only way to run a program would be through a terminal, either through any specific commands for the program that you're working on, the software that you're working on. And it's just good to know in general. So we'll be going over that. We'll be going over what GitHub is, difference between the Git bash and GitHub and Git. So they're all sort of connected. So let's go ahead and dive into this now. Okay. So for Windows, here we are. If you don't have Windows, if you have a Mac, bear with us here. I'm going to try to share my Windows screen eventually, but I don't want to take up too much time trying to switch between screens. So if it doesn't work, bear with me here. But let me go ahead and try to share my screen now. Okay. If we normally want to navigate through files, we would use the File Explorer. Okay, and here on my desktop, I can see all the files that I have. And if I click this search bar, expand it, it should give me a direct path. Let's see here. If I go to another path, this PC. I think I have to have something enabled here, but you get the picture. If I wanted to go to this specific location, this, oh man, let me turn this feature on if I can. It's gonna be so helpful.
You can just go into a folder and then it'll give you a path there.
There we go. Yeah, this is what I want. Thank you. Yep, so here we have the folder location. We have the C drive, we have the users, we have my username, and then we have my desktop, and then the folder that I'm currently at. So this is the file location for where I'm currently at. But if I wanted to access this through the terminal, I would go to my search bar and I type in terminal or command prompt will pop up. And as you can see, there is a similarity in this file path location. See users, the username 14084, desktop, and then coding dojo. If I wanted to get to this location here, there's just some command keys that we will teach you to do that. Okay. So on the PC, I believe it's dir, that's the command to show you everything, every file and folder available at your current location. Okay, as you can see, my desktop here is one of the locations available. I'm going to go ahead and go into my desktop. So the command would be cd desktop. And if I press enter, now you can see it's different here. The location is now the same as if I were not to be in here, but this here. And all these files and folders are available on my desktop. So now that I'm in my desktop, if I do the same command, dir, I should see those same folders, and I do. This is the way you would navigate through your computer when before computers had the type of GUIs we have now. Okay, if I wanted to delete something from here, if I wanted to edit something from here, all those commands would be here in this terminal. Now let's go back to my PC. Give me a second here. Oh, I got to share my screen here. It's better view on PC. Okay. So that terminal that you've seen on my PC is a type of terminal. There's also the PowerShell on the Windows machine, and on the Mac here, it's just called terminal, as you see here. So I'm going to check my files here, and instead of typing dir, I'm going to type in ls. That's the difference between a Mac and PC's terminal. So here I have my desktop. I'm going to cd into my desktop. And now I'm in my desktop. It's very simple, very similar to just clicking and dragging. The only difference is everything is in text. So it's not very intimidating once you get the concept of what you're looking at here. Okay, let's go ahead and move along through the platform. So we want to learn some command lines, and this is what we're going to go over here. So some of these commands will work differently on a Mac or PC, but that's okay. Some of them do overlap. So to get started, open your terminal and try the commands below. Note that most of these work well in the Windows command prompt as well as other ones. I just said that. So present working directory. Directory means folder file structure. So if I type in pwd, it shows me where I currently am at. And you can see that already by the position here, desktop. I can also see where I'm at by typing ls, like what I already did, and it shows me the current available directories. That's another way to know. ls stands for list files. It's going to list all the files that we are trying to access. And list files -L is list files long form. So let's see what this looks like. So now here are my files with much more text description.
What does staff mean?
That's just another description here of me, Josh, the user.
Okay.
Okay. The ls-l is the long representation of the file. So if you really need to dig in and find file information, this is what it's going to do for you. I want to skip over unnecessary information here. I want to give you guys just the basics because it's a little bit overwhelming to learn too many command lines at once. If you want to really dig into it, you can read the platform yourself. But the ones that I'll give you today are enough to maneuver, okay, to be fluent. Use ls-a to see all the files, but that's essentially the same as just typing in ls. Okay, when you have a lot of text here that you want to erase to start over fresh, the command is clear. So just type in clear. That will clear the whole terminal, but you're still at the current position that you're working from. And CD stands for change directory, and the dot stands for the current file that you're looking at currently. So let's do that now. I'm going to type in ls, and I want to go to my web-fun lectures folder. So I'm going to type in cd web-fun-lectures. Press enter. Now I'm in this folder. And if I type in code dot, no, wait, my Visual Studio is not connected in this computer here. But this would be a shortcut to open Visual Studio at the current folder that you're at. If you want to go up a folder, I want to go back to my desktop, I would type in cd space ... Now I'm back at my desktop. So if I type in, I'm so used to doing it on two different commands. So it is pwd. So if I type in pwd, you'll see here, I'm back here in my desktop. Okay, now I want to go back to my web-fun folder. So I say ls. Here are my folders. I go and I say cd web-fun-lectures. Okay. Oh, did I not type it in? Oh, it's WeFund. Okay. So here's a shortcut as well. So if I type in cd web and I press tab, it will search my files or my folders and give me the text for the folder that I am closest to naming. So all I had to do was type in web, and it knew that the only folder available on my desktop was web-fun-lectures. Okay, so now I'll go ahead and enter this again. And let's continue in the platform. Okay. So I went over this. This is to go up a folder file structure. And changing the root directory. This command will change the root directory of your computer from this folder. You can access your application folders. So if I wanted to go even deeper, for example, if I say, let's see what's in Web Fund Lectures. So I say ls. I have all these different folders here, week 1, day 2. So I'm going to go back to Web Fund Lectures. No, actually back to my desktop. cd ... cd ... And I'm going to say, I want to go into my Web Fund Lectures and then into week 1, day 2. So cd web, and I press tab. It's going to know I am already looking for the Web Fund. And now I'm going to type in week 1, day 2. So week 1, day 2. And now I'm there. So I can skip around if I know exactly where I'm going. And so on and so forth. You can also cd to the direct path that you're looking for if you know the whole entire path name. So let's say I go all the way up to past my desktop. Let's see where I am. Okay. So I say cd, and I can type in my whole entire path location, but I'm just going to type in desktop, web. Let's see if it can know what's in here. Yep, if I just type in WE and press tab, it's going to know exactly what I'm looking for. And if I say week 1, day 2, it's essentially the same thing. It's hopping around between folders and files here. Okay, so let's get in the chat a level of 1 to 10 how we're understanding this, please. It's a really simple concept. It's the same as the graphical user interface. It's just accessing these folders by their names and using these commands. Okay, great. Now, if I wanted to make a folder, I'd use this command. mkdir, dir stands for directory, mkdir, and then I type in the directory name, the folder name. So I'm going back to my desktop. Okay. These are the folders that are available here. Let's just look at my desktop over again. I have a couple screenshots, a couple folders. Now I'm going to make a directory called new directory. So mk new directory. Oh, I forgot to put dir. mkdir new directory. Now, if I type in ls to list everything here, I should see it right here, new directory. And if I look here on my desktop, if I minimize everything, Minimize my Visual Studio Code. I've got Zoom in the way. Here it is. There's the directory I created with the command line. It's got nothing in it. And if I check the terminal, there would be nothing in here as well.
Why didn't your code space dot work?
When I typed it in the terminal.
Yeah.
Which line here?
You did it a while ago. You said when you tried to open VS Code, but you said your computer wasn't set for it.
Yeah, I didn't connect it yet with Visual Studio. I may be able to do that on my PC. We'll test that at the very end. Okay, if I wanted to remove a directory, all I have to type in is rm or rmdir directory name. So now I'm going to delete this directory that I named new directory. Let's clear the terminal. And I'm going to say rm and then the directory name. rm, type in new. There's only one folder here called new, so I press tab. And it's going to recognize what's there and how it's spelled, and I press enter. And if I now type in ls, it's still there. Let's type in the other command. Why didn't it do it? rmdir. New directory. There we go. So on my Mac, only this command worked, rmdir, and then directory name. When you have a website that you want to publish to the internet, later on, you'll have to learn how to interact with a computer that's on a foreign, it's a foreign server. Essentially, when you launch your website, you usually don't use your own computer as the host. That would be rare. You'd have to use one of Amazon's computers. And when you use Amazon's computers, you have to use the terminal. You don't use the GUI as you would here. When you're on Amazon's computers publishing your website, you have to navigate through their computer using the terminal this way. And if you want to remove a directory that has something in it, so let's go ahead and add a file in here. Let's create a new one again. So who can tell me how to create a directory?
mkdir.
Here we go. So mkdir. I'm going to say new directory. Okay. Now I'm going to add a file to this directory. This example.zip that you see here on my screen on the right, I'm going to just drag it in here. And maybe this screenshot as well. That might be useful. Never mind. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is try to remove it by using the rmdir and say the directory name, and let's see what happens. rmdir, and it's called new directory. And we get this error here. Directory is not empty. So in order to delete something that's not empty, I have to use this -rf, which is saying force it anyway. Okay, so let's do that. I want to delete this folder and everything that's inside it. So I'm going to say rm dash rf, and I called it new directory. So I type in new, press dash. Now I'm going to press enter. And it's deleted. And everything inside is deleted as well. Okay. Now we're going to create some files in a directory. So let's clear everything here. I'm going to make a new directory. I'm going to say mkdir, new directory. Now I should be able to go in it. If I type in ls, there it is. New directory. And I say cd new directory. And now that I'm here, I want to create a new file. So let's go ahead and create these two files. I'm just going to copy this here and paste it in. Now let's take a look at our folder. Here's my index.html. And if I type in ls here while I'm in this new directory, there I have it, index.html. Let's try to remove this index.html. So I'm going to say rm index.html. Now if I type in ls, it's empty. Let's check the folder. It's empty. So that's the difference between rm and rmdir. rmdir removes the folder. rm removes the file. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, nothing in the chat, so let's keep going. Okay, renaming a file. All right, so let's check our directory. Let's go ahead and make a new file. So I'm going to say touch.index.html. I don't want to type it again. I don't need to copy it. And the reason is if I press the up arrow on my keyboard, it has memory of all the commands I've used while using this terminal. So if I press up again, it's going to have the memory of rm index.html. I can go up again. It was ls before that. And now I'm back to touch index.html. I can do this for all the commands that we used while using this directory, even the clear, I believe. You see it's going through everything I've typed in today. I'll go back to the bottom. I'm going to touch this index.html, and now it's created. Okay, now let's go ahead and edit it as we said we would. I'm going to copy this command here and paste it in here. Okay, let's make this a better view. Okay, so now my index.html is going to be changed to new name index.html. Let's type in ls to view our change. And there it is. If I check this directory, there's the new name. It's the same as if I were to go in here, double click it. Oh, not like that. If I were to double click it slowly and then change the name from here. Okay. So that's renaming a file. Does anyone have any questions about this? Can we get a 1 through 10?
Yeah, if you make a new file or folder that already has an existing name, let's say you made another new directory, is it gonna like default by adding a like a 1 to the end of it like the GUI would, or would it give you an error?
Let's take a look. So I'm going to create a new directory. So let's take a look at this here. I'm going to remove, actually, I just need to add hello.html. So I'm going to say touch hello.html. And now let's take a look in here. It didn't do anything. It's not the same exactly as it would be here. Okay, and in the GUI, I
See.
can't make a file in here in this file explorer. So I can type in, I'll type in the command again, touch hello.html, enter, I press ls, only one HTML file in there called hello. So it won't duplicate it. Let's go over some more commands. Did that answer that?
Yeah, pretty much. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Removing a file. We already went over this. That's the difference between removing an individual file and removing a folder. So rm will remove the file, rmdir will remove the folder. We did this renaming already. Copying a file. Okay, let's go ahead and copy a file. Let me clear this. Here's my file. I'm going to copy this. So I'm going to say cp and then hello.html. Did I type it right? Okay. And if I wanted to paste it, we'll never know because the platform doesn't say. Okay. That's something I'll make a note of. Yeah. I'll have to look up the command to paste a file, but that's not something you usually do in a directory. Not something I've done or ever had to do. That would be interesting. How to paste it? Let's see here. How to paste a file using the GUI. We'll go over this later. It's not important. This will open the folder. As I've stated, this dot will open where you are currently at. So let's go ahead and do that one. Open dot. And now it will open the GUI's folder view. Now this word sudo is when you're using a cloud machine. So like I said, when you're publishing your website later on, and you're working on a cloud server, the difference between using this command line interface and a foreign one is the word sudo. So you just type in sudo before you do each command. Sudo this, sudo that. That's the only difference.
And a small point about the sudo, if you're using MacBook, you may actually need to use sudo sometimes because sometimes you may not be the super user for the laptop. And there's a situation that I need to use sudo. Usually it works for me without a sudo. But whenever you click on sudo, when they see the sudo this word, they will ask you for the password. So you have a prompt on the terminal asking for the password. And at that time, you have to type in your laptop password. And in that case, they will perform the making directory, they will perform the touch, they will perform the remove, but they will need your password before they perform it. Yeah. So other than the cloud server, usually MacBook user would use sudo quite a lot as well.
Right.
Would it require the password every time? Like every time you wanted to touch something, it would require you to put it in?
Usually when making directory or touch something or removing something, I don't need to do sudo. The only time that I need to use sudo a lot is probably when I need to install something into your MacBook in using the command prompt. So most of the time, I don't really need to use sudo, but
Gotcha.
sometimes, let's say when you try to do something and you may actually see some words, like the terminal will say something like, oh, you don't have the permission to do certain things. So when you see it's related to the permission, go ahead and add the sudo before what you want to do. And
Gotcha.
usually, yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, now let's take a small quiz here. One, which command will print out the current directory that I'm working with? Danielle says PWD. Okay. We'll go with that. Majority says PWD. Which command will list in a long form the files and folders in our current directory? ls. ls will list. Okay. Which command will change the directory into a folder called my-project? Change directory means enter the folder. So if I want to enter the folder called my-project, I will do that line there. Which command will change directory to leave the current directory? cd ... Well done. And which command will show all the files in a current directory? That's correct. All right. Now let's go over GitHub and its uses. So if you have not used GitHub, type 0 in the chat. If you have used GitHub, type 1. MIT Terminus. So there should be more responses than what I'm seeing here. If you haven't used GitHub, please type 0. If you have used GitHub, type 1. Did
Oh,
everyone
they have
respond?
it on the platform. So if you click on the platform, they actually have that MIT Terminus. It was really fun. I used to like that a lot. Yeah. So basically, it's like a game. So you can type LS to look around what you have. And now you can go into different area. You can go into the Western Forest. You can go into the Northern Meadow. So basically, it's like going into different places. So you can CD into any place you want. And that's pretty fun. Yeah. And you can also use the tab to help you to fill it in. Yeah, that's right. And now you want to know what's going on. You can also press type the LS and you can see the surrounding. It's a pretty fun game. It's like RPG.
By the way, this is the way online RPGs used to be played. Like I've never played it this way, but I've seen lots of documentaries where people play turn-based games like Dungeons and Dragons or whatever style game that's like that, using the command line interface.
What's RPG?
Role-playing game.
Ah.
So a turn-based game, like a board game, essentially, but they would use the command line interface. So that was like a popular version would be like a World of Warcraft or something. People used to play something like that online using this terminal. They didn't have something as cool as this image, like a pixelated image, but they would just imagine like a board game. I see. I don't even know the names, but I believe Christian here. Zork sounds like something that would be.
Yeah.
Text-based.
But I think like really get used to using all these command line, especially how to remove a file, how to create a directory, how to create a file, and also how to CD into different areas. So I would say these are super, super important when you go through the program, because sometimes right now we didn't really use any of the command line, but you are going to use a lot when you go to, I would say when you go to JavaScript and also go to Python stack, you actually use a lot of command line, yeah, pretty often as well. Not Java stack, but JavaScript, I mean, MERN stack and also Python. You will use the terminal a little more.
Great. Thank you, Heidi. Okay, who knows what a bash terminal is? Can anyone tell me? It's all right. It is a certain type of terminal. There's different versions of this terminal that we will use. If you're on a PC especially, you'll have to download it in order to use GitHub, the GitHub command line interface. So let's go ahead and open Visual Studio Code. Okay. Here I have an HTML file that I was creating, I was testing. So the usual way, the way we've taught you so far how to push to GitHub is by creating a file in a folder, editing the file. So now I've just edited this HTML. I put some text in here. I go to this section here, the source control button section, this three-pronged dot, and I would enter a commit message. Okay, commit message is a message that you are entering that is the reason or something related to your save. So basically, GitHub is a place where you save your files and your folders so that people can see them. You don't want to always share certain types of files or receive those files using something like an email server, because they may have malicious files that would, if you download it, it'll corrupt something on your computer. And GitHub is also a place where you want to see public repositories, something that someone would publish and that you can take a version of, and then you can make edits to, and then you can publish that version of the edit that you made. and people can take your version of that and then just create their own versions. So we'll get into the technical terms of what those mean exactly. But just know that when you save a certain version of your code that you'll be ready to push to GitHub or save to GitHub, the first step is called a commit. And when you make a commit, you are you're always required to leave a message here that will say the reason for this save. For example, I want to say the reason for this save is going to be to show a GitHub commit. So now if I press commit, it will go ahead and have this ready to be pushed. The push is the final stage of saving your folders and files to GitHub. Okay, so now it's asking for this this arrow and this one. So this will go ahead and push that commit. And you'll see this action will pull and push commits from and to origin/main. So what does it mean to pull and push? So pull means I am pulling the latest version of this code, and push means I'm going to save the latest version of this code. I'm pushing my code to the repository or the foreign folder file structure online, and the place where in this folder file structure is called origin/main. And I'm going to say okay. And now if I check my GitHub, this should be available, and it is available, so I'm not going to check it. So there's another way to do this using the command line interface. So you can open this on GitHub by going on the Mac, you go to the terminal, and I say new terminal. The default one that I have here is this one that says ZCH. That's the same as this here. See how it says ZCH, ZSH, excuse me. I want to change it to bash. Changing it to bash is going to make it easier to work with GitHub most of the time. And if you don't have bash on your computer, if you're working on a Windows, you'll have to go and download bash. So you just do a Google search and say download bash for Windows. It'll take you here. And what bash is a Linux command line interface. So we have Windows, we have Mac, and we have Linux. It's another type of command line interface that has just slightly different commands. Okay, what does it stand for? The maker of this command line interface, his name was Stephen Bourne. So they named this interface Born Again Shell. That's all you really need to know about it. It's just a different version.
Hey Joshua, I got a question about committing stuff. When you commit something, that means that the file keeps getting updated in GitHub, right? So like what happens if like two people, let's say, are working on the same project or stuff, and then they both commit, but they override? Does that mean that once they hit commit, he overrides whatever the other person wrote, or what happens if two people commit the same?
So like let's say yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So like, let's say, can somebody that's using basically some of my code from my GitHub do a commit, and would it just send it to their GitHub, or do they have any type of rights in the public section to be able to push any commit in my GitHub?
You can set the settings, right? So someone can take your, if you have code available on your GitHub that anyone can see, they can take that, make a version of it and publish that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to make edits to your code. But let's say that code that you're working on is public and you're working on a team with people. So the commit is more like the stage where, imagine it's like a rocket ship. Everyone's loading on the rocket ship, and it's that stage where we're saying we're ready for takeoff. The push is actually the takeoff, and it's going to get to its destination unless there's something wrong there, unless you don't have access to push to that location. Okay. Every time you can set the settings for who you want to collaborate with. And let's say they take a version of the code and it's slightly different than yours. It will create a new branch. And so the leader or the owner of the project will have to merge the branches and see the differences between the code that's existing and the code that has been pushed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you so much for that, by the way.
Yeah, it can be confusing terminology. For now, all you need to know until you start working in group projects, which is not too long from now, maybe a month from now, but all you need to know for now is a few basic commands. Okay, so I'm going to open up the terminal on VS Code. Okay, now that I've opened my bash script, I'm going to just clear this here. I'm going to make another edit by just typing in here. And I'm going to show you how to commit and push using the command line interface here. So I'm going to just check where I am. And when you open the terminal in the folder that you're working in, using VS Code, if you say new terminal, it will open at the current folder structure. So you can see here, if I type in ls, it'll show me this file, index.html, that's in the current folder. Okay, so here's the first command line. If I type in git add dot, it's going to add all the files and folders at this current folder location where I'm at. Okay, so because I am in this test123 folder, will it show here? Yes, this is the name of my folder, test123. Because I'm in here, it's going to take everything that's inside this location. Right now, it's just my index.html. And if I had more folders or more files in here, it would take that as well. And the dot is the current file location, folder file location. So I'm going to type in, I'm going to press enter. So now it's added everything in here. Now I want to commit. So I'm going to say git commit -m. M is for the message. And within the quotes here, I'm going to say, this is another test commit. And if I press enter, it will show here, let me expand this. One change file, one insertion, and one deletion. So these are the changes made from the last commit. But basically it's this here, another edit. Okay, now if I type in git push, it's now pushed this commit to GitHub. Okay, so now if I check my GitHub, I'll check my repositories. And here it is. Test 1, 2, 3, 4. My index.html has the folder. Here has the edits I made to this file folder structure. Let's get some feedback on how well we understood that. There's 3 command lines: git add all, git commit -m, and then the message, and then git push. Before Visual Studio had these really convenient buttons to push, this was the way the dojo taught how to make changes. So I'll do it again. I'll go ahead and open my Visual Studio. I'll make another edit. Okay. I'll clear my terminal so it's a little easier to read. I'm in test 1, 2, 3, 4 because I see this here. And I'm going to say git add all. That says add all the files and folders in this folder. Git commit -m. That's the message. And in here, I'll type in the reason for this commit. Testing another commit. And then I'm going to say git push. And this here, all this here, it means it was a successful push. 100%, 1 out of 1 completed, 1 local object. So now let's take a look at our GitHub. I'm going to go to my repositories. I go here. And here is my code push. Now about GitHub, this could be a whole nother lesson, another hour in itself. But let's just see here a couple features of GitHub here. You can make multiple branches here. Find or create branches. The only branch is the main branch. So I don't need to merge anyone else's work with mine. I'm not working with multiple branches. So the only one that will push to is main. Let's see here. There was a way to view the different commits. And I think it would be in this location here, but I think they may have changed it. It used to be really complex, but they've made it really convenient. So sometimes when they make things easier, you guys know how to use this, right? There's a GitHub desktop app that makes it even easier to push to GitHub. If you have multiple GitHub accounts, it'll make it really complicated to use Visual Studio's GitHub option here. So try to stick with one account. If you have to use
accounts for the Git integration here, if you use this is your profile, so you can actually have multiple accounts and switch between accounts. See if you hover over this top up a little bit, we see where it says here. Yeah, and so you can right there. So you can have multiple accounts here, and you can sign out and switch between them. If you've signed into multiple, you can swap between them here pretty easily. So you can have multiple GitHub accounts for the VS Code integration as well for Git.
Okay, when I used the new GitHub account, it gave me lots of issues. It didn't trust the second account I made to make pushes through it. But if you know a way, Christian, then I trust that. The way I was able to get around that was using the GitHub desktop. So if you do run into issues like I did and you want to push with another account, GitHub desktop is a great option. It will just view my folders here, and you push these changes using these buttons on the top. It's really simple. It's a bigger window, I think, than necessary. You can link it to your Visual Studio Code as well. But this is what the desktop app looks like. If you want to create a new repository here on GitHub, there's an easy way to do that. You go to your repositories, you type in new, you name the repository here, new repo. If you want to make it public or private, these are the options here. You say create repository. And these are the command line interface lines that you'll need to copy and paste. You don't actually need to use all of these. You will have to use this one definitely. Git remote add origin. Git init. And then you'll have to git add all, and then add the commit message, and then push. So I think these instructions can be a bit out of order, but it's so convenient to use Visual Studio Code's method that you don't really need to know how to do this. Okay, it's a bit outdated, but we want you to be aware of it anyways, that there is a way to connect to your repository using these command lines. Maybe I should attempt to do that now, and that will be the final thing I do here. Okay, so I want to add this one. So I'm going to say copy. I'm going to create a new file here. I'm going to go to my desktop. Okay, I'm going to open this. Did it open? Didn't open. I must have pressed cancel. Okay. So index.html. And now I want to link this using only the command line interface. So I'm going to, the shortcut is Control-Tittle, which is right next to the number 1. I'm going to select bash. And I'm going to paste here.
You probably need to do the git init first. So basically, when you're trying to add a remote of like something into the git, you have to initialize a git file. So you probably need to do something like git init in that folder. And after that, you can do what you want to do, like the remote add something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think I was working with something defunct here for a while, so I've been going out of order. Okay, now it's connected. Thank you, Heidi. So git init, then git add remote origin, and then those 3 command lines: git add all, git commit m, and then git push. Git add all, git commit m, first push. And then git push. Oh, wait, I have to say, the first time I have to say git push -u origin main. So let's try this.
You still have to create a branch first because you're trying to do the git push to the origin to the main, but we don't have a branch of main. So git branch of the main is going to create the branch for the main, and then you can push it to the main. Yeah.
Okay. Right, so these are the first. So the reason why I get confused here is because from the command line on a new one, it doesn't say init, but well, it is here, git branch m. So let's go ahead and do this and wrap this up. And now I want to add this push line. Okay, now we have our repo online. So let's go ahead and go back to my repositories.
Yeah, actually just refresh on that page because that page will change after you get pushed. So that's interesting as well. It's the same page.
Okay, here it is. Index.html with the word test in it. Okay, so let's just reiterate for the sake of clarity here, the order. You create a new repo. Again. Git init is the first command. And then git commit, git add all. I think that's the line that should be in here. Git add and then dot. It's not in this line, but you should add it anyways. And then git commit -m and a message for your first commit. And then add the origin and then push. So let's go ahead. I will type it in the Zoom chat here. Step 1, create repo name. And then once you create it, git init. Then you add this line. Git remote, add origin. I'm just going to copy this as if this was yours. Git branch -m. Then you add the commit message. Excuse me. Then you say git add all. Then the commit message. And then push. So it's a bit confusing the first time, but this is the order. Create the repo name, git init, add the origin, then add the branch, then add all your files, then add the commit message, and then push. So you can see why we use the Visual Studio Code's way. But once you get familiar with this, it's a piece of cake.
And if you're not sure, I got a little cheat sheet in the Discord channel. So basically, sometimes when you go through some later stack like Java stack, we are not using VS Code for Java stack. So at some point, you have to use some Git bash for that one. Sometimes I still use the GitHub desktop, and you can still use VS Code. But on the Discord, I actually sent you a picture to show you the process about how you can do it. Yeah, so that one should be pretty like helpful.
Yep. Okay. How are we feeling about the command line and GitHub and Git Bash and pushing our code online?
A quick question. So a repository is the same as like a new file?
It's
in
a
VS Code?
it's a foreign file on a cloud somewhere.
Okay, but when we save in VS Code and do a commit, it creates a repository.
Right. So you are creating a version that you are going to push to that cloud server.
Okay, thanks.
When you say git init, you are initializing that repository. Okay. Thank you everyone for participating. Appreciate it. So yeah, have this knowledge in the back of your mind. You don't have to know exactly how everything works. The best way I've seen is Heidi's recommended game. I'm actually going to play it after this lesson. So looking forward to that. Thank you, Heidi. And does anyone else have any other questions? Okay. There's so much information here. I'm not going to quiz you guys again. So I appreciate you guys sticking with this lesson. It's been an hour now, so let's go ahead and close this out. Stop the recording, and thank you very much, everyone.